Right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Magical Human Show. How's everyone been doing? It sounds like we've all been having a tricky week with things breaking and costing us money. We're not in a Mercury retrograde, but one is coming. We're in the feel of it. I've definitely felt it. How about you guys?
Can't blame everything on poor Mercury.
I can. I will. If things break, I always go, what's Mercury doing? And
But is that the thing, Claire? I think it
yeah,
may be
don't buy
other
big
things
expensive
going on.
things.
It may be other things.
There are other things obviously going on as well, but Mercury is about communication. That's when things go wrong with communication generally. But I'm with Tamar. If things start to kind of go a little bit, they take twice as long, and Mercury has duality, so anything takes twice as long as it would ordinarily. It's like there's different heavy stages to get through. I think Mercury, yeah, I'm with her, but there are other things going on. You were right. Shall I talk to that now as we're
Go
here?
on.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I was always told don't make expensive purchases, especially large electrical goods like cars, Claire.
Yes, Tamar.
Wow.
I have been modeling that, the inverse of good advice on that all week. And hopefully I will have sorted. In fact, I've done quite a few things this year where I've bought things that big investments that actually haven't worked out for me and have cost me money. So I've done two now. I don't really want number three, but I'm sure it's coming. And I'm just at the point where I'm going, am I safe to make any decisions at all at the moment? That's how I'm feeling. I'm like, I don't think decision, and I've always thought I was a really good decision maker, but I'm starting to think that perhaps I'm a little bit too kind of, gung ho about my decision making processing because I'm very fiery. So I'm just like, let's get it done. And maybe that doesn't work. Maybe my husband's heavy, earthy attitude is much more sensible.
Well, decision making is to do with the gallbladder meridian.
Oh,
Yeah,
Do
just
you have a
saying.
gallbladder, Claire? Have you
I
got
have
your gallbladder?
a gallbladder, yes.
It
So
might be slightly out of whack.
you say
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah, that's so super interesting because yesterday I had some spiritual response therapy with a friend, which is where you don't have any hands-on healing, but she uses a whole system of dowsing kind of charts to go through to understand what your kind of spiritual imprints are, which are largely picked before you're born. So, things that your patterns all from when you're born. So I didn't have that much, which was great to hear once she'd given me the bad news because I have done so much work on myself. So I'm not kind of, there's not too much to clear, but the stuff that came up, one of them was sugar and the fact that health and well-being was an issue. Now I know that my diet is really, really good. It's just the fact that sugar in the form of chocolate, I don't have it really in any other form apart from chocolate brownies, chocolate cake, um, scones, and chocolate. And I was like, okay, I'm hearing that spirit. So the fact that you bring gallbladder up and it's responsible for processing fat in the body, I'm like, oh, okay. Clearly a link there. So my chocolate eating, I think it's not harming me, but actually it's making me make really shit decisions, which are costing me a lot of money. So there's just an example. It's not only making me put on weight. It's
Where will you get your joy if you give up chocolate? You might have a decent working car, but no joy. You'll be miserable driving it.
I don't
Well, there are other ways of having joy. I just
No,
put that
no,
in
there
there.
isn't.
know. There is, isn't there, June? Like nuts.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
nuts.
Looking at the trees, like I have these lovely trees outside my clinic and they give me joy.
Yes, nature, but things that you can eat is what I think Tamar's referring to, like a
Yeah.
thing. I'm getting quite into fruit at the moment, as in, like fruit, like smoothies and things like that. So I'm getting quite a lot of enjoyment out of that fresh kind of fruitiness. I don't know, Tamar is a short answer, but anything to stop these terrible decisions would be amazing.
Oh, goodness me.
Fast at the moment is how it's coming in everyone, and that really is kind of what I kind of have said about the beginning of this year is the fact that it would get thick and fast. Consequences are coming around really, really quickly. You make a decision before you know it, you're facing consequences. That's deeply uncomfortable. It's lots of opportunities for growth. This new moon is the ash new moon. So ash is a tree that is both fire and water. So it represents the sun and Neptune. So there's a kind of fusion of, it's a very magical tree. It's known as a unicorn tree. This fusion of kind of like solid rootedness with kind of intuition and kind of knowing. So this kind of making informed choices, like using your imagination, the Neptune energy of being able to dream things in. And it's a Pisces new moon, so that's very important, the kind of intuition, the dreaming it in, but having a practical element to it, so it's got deep roots. So it's really good for coming up with ideas for new work, new ways to go around things, and also dropping patterns which no longer serve. So yeah, and just seeing them, and there's a lot of clarity in this new moon as well, with Uranus and Taurus kicking off in the background. And that kind of Uranus is really an invitation to see it as it really is, as opposed to kind of how you wish it was. And if we can do all of that, then we get to the right frequency and we can bring in what's already waiting for us, but we aren't accessing because we're eating too much chocolate. So it's kind of like, it's powerful. People are already feeling it. So, we're just possibly feeling it ahead of the curve, which is why everything feels a little bit kind of like, and there's a lot of people at the moment saying they feel really meh. There's a lot of meh around, and it does feel like life is very difficult. And yeah.
What about gravity? Let's talk about gravity, because things seem to be falling down a lot. And it's not just me dropping things because I've got bad coordination. It's not that. But it's like just things seem to keep falling down.
Well, remember, the moon is responsible for the gravitational force. So when we get a new moon, we have no moon. So the gravitational pressure is a lot less. So it could be that kind of, the world around you, June, is very reliant on a strong moon holding everything in place. And as soon as it disappears, everything's a bit chaotic. It's like, ooh, what's going on here? And also Pisces, ooh, dreaming. Ooh. Well, I was thinking about something else and I dropped it. Maybe there's a bit of that going on.
Less mindfulness because things are rushing. Yes, I noticed that when things are rushing and I'm rushing, and the more I slow down, the more time there is for stuff. It's so interesting. But I was as you know, I've been revisiting my birth chart in relation to the Atlantis asteroid and things. I would encourage everybody to look at Heather Ensworth's YouTube channel and look at her interview with Julia Balaz about Atlantis, because there's a link to a website where you can find where a certain number of asteroids are in your chart. I picked them all and it came back, it said, no, too many. Because I'm so greedy. So I did one and then I did another one, and all these Egyptian asteroids. Oh, it's amazing. However, what I've been reinvestigating is my houses. And I've got Pisces in my first house. My moon is in Cancer. I believe it's in my 6th house.
Okay.
And everything else pretty much is in Scorpio. So I'm pretty wet.
So what does this mean for you, though, for those that aren't?
Yeah, emotional.
Okay.
I'm water through and through.
And do you feel that's true for you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Although in the 5 elements, I'm more wood and earth. So that kind of maybe gives more of a balance, because in Chinese medicine, it depends on what hour you were born, as well as the year and the month and the whole thing. So it's kind of, eventually I'll try and understand it all and integrate it, but I'm doing it bit by bit.
Astrology. Well, I'm teaching a course in astrology at the moment, June. It's an online course that basically will be available to purchase online. And it goes through the houses and it goes through all these things. But anyway, the hour of birth is essential to work out your housing system in Western astrology. So it also is imperative.
Oh, yeah. I've got Aquarius rising.
And is the hour close enough? Because I've been told my date of birth, but it's a round number. And I know someone in my family, no naming any names, is not particularly good at detail. So as long as I'm within the hour, is that going to be enough if I'm like a minute off?
Yeah, I've got all of that. I've had my birth chart for a long time. But I'm adding in these asteroids. It's incredible.
So
Because
what
loads
what
of
do
them
the
are in my midheaven.
but what
Atlantis
does
is
it
in my
mean? What do the
midheaven as well.
asteroids? Sorry. What,
Well,
what why do we need to know what asteroids are in our thing? What does it tell us?
I don't know. I'm just so nosy. I wanted to know. I it means maybe to me it means that I might have a connection to these ancient cultures, and I'm fascinated by them.
Like past life stuff, or is that different
Hmm,
to that?
It's
possibly.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, Nessus is an asteroid that I look at, and Nessus is the ancestral karma, as you know, June. So
Mhm.
each of these different kind of asteroids have a different kind of meaning and carry some information. So it's like further layering of the picture, if you want an answer to that. So kind of June can tell us a little bit. She can open the door, but she can't take us entirely through it at this point. We perhaps will learn more from her
Mm.
to date. But June, if you feel a connection to Atlantis, then that's because you have one. I'm a great believer in the fact that if you feel it, then it's true. And it's a kind of intuitive feeling. So if it lights your heart up from the inside, then it's kind of a deep truth that lives within you. So, and with all that water in your chart, you clearly were part of the watery city of Atlantis.
Well, and then there's Egypt, you see. I mean, I did Egyptian alchemy, Sekhem healing with my friend, developed that course, and I was just like, I have to do this. And my other friend has got a load of stuff from her ex woohoo shop that she used to have with crystals and books. And I went into her house. Her daughter invited me to go and help myself to. So we brought back some crystals, we brought back some books, and I went straight for the Atlantis books.
Yeah.
And I got as many of those. Next on my list is the what's his name? Oh my gosh, what's his name? The ancient apocalypse guy. I've just been talking about him earlier on. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the guy that predicted the future, that guy.
Well,
What?
he's a journalist who's gone back to try,
Oh,
and he's linking up all these ancient civilizations. Graham Hancock, him. She's got books by him, and that's my next
Your
next.
next pit stop.
hyper focus.
Fantastic. So yeah, okay. So everyone else out there, then perhaps some asteroid information would be something you might want to consider, or my astrology course to even begin to understand your astrology would be something to consider. And the new moon, yeah, this because it's Pisces, can I just ask you not to rush around this weekend, just to take it gently? Because that is the invitation with this flow is just to be and witness whatever comes up. And if you don't create the space to allow things to come up, nothing will come up and you won't be any wiser. Just perhaps you're a little bit more confused.
Yeah, that's
Is
great.
that for everybody or just those with Pisces in their chart?
That's for absolutely
Everybody.
everyone's got Pisces in their chart because everybody has all the zodiacs in their chart. It's just to a
Yeah.
lesser extent into which planets are in that particular zodiac and which houses. So
Mm. Okay. So new moon, good time for manifesting.
new beginnings, new starts, all of that kind of stuff, and depending on where it is, that'll be a new start in whichever house it shows up in.
Okay. Rush off and check where it is in mine.
Planting
Sounds good.
seeds. Planting seeds.
Seeds. And should we literally be planting seeds? Because aren't we in fake spring at the moment, and then we'll get second winter? I'm a bit cautious of planting anything in case frost comes.
Well, it depends where you're planting them. Plant them on the windowsill in the house in those little trays. So they're starting to germinate because the waxing moon is a good time for germinating. Am I right, Claire?
You are, June.
This is what they say in biodynamic gardening. That's how it's one of the few things. It's very much more complicated than that, but that's one of the things that's stuck with me. And getting your hair cut.
Yeah.
Always get your hair cut on the waning moon.
Or
Why?
hair removal on a waning moon.
Okay, yeah, that too.
Easier to kind of get it out, cut it
Do we
off.
know
I'm
why?
slightly rushing around tomorrow because I want to get my hair cut before the new moon
Less.
Why?
because it's
Why this particular
waning.
time? But what does that mean for people?
Because the waning moon is the one between the full and the new,
Yeah.
and the
So we're letting
waxing
go
moon
of
is
old.
between the new and the full.
Yeah, she knows that. She wants to know why you'd want to get your hair cut at this point in time.
Do you know what? I can't remember.
Is it getting rid of the old? Because your body keeps a score and
Yeah.
hair holds trauma. So when you leave a trauma or a bad relationship, we always cut our hair off and dye it, don't
I'm
we?
going to tell you
So is
what I'm
it
going to
shedding of
do.
the old?
I'm getting all of this color taken off that I put on my hair in lockdown. So this is lockdown
It's
gone.
still there.
Oomph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shema, your hair's looking very nice today.
Mm.
May, it's the day before wash day. I'm also growing out the dye. I'm going au naturel.
Oh,
I'm going to see what's in there. Hmm?
I like the pink ends and I like the colour of your hair. You're lucky to have hair that
Thank you.
nice.
I wasn't quite, I was going grey before the pandemic, and then the pandemic stressed me out so much that it kind of fast tracked me because my mum and my grandmother both had very white hair very early. So it was always going to be a thing. I was brunette originally. But yeah, it's gone very light and I dye it. And so I'm just kind of leaving it to see what's going to come through naturally and see if I look like a bag lady or not.
No, I
You
think
will never look like a bag lady, ever.
I'm so pale skinned that I always had dark hair. And so pale skin and pale hair, I just look washed out and like a ghost, but I might embrace that, see how invisible I can get, because I'm also the age of invisibility, of course. It being International Women's Day, isn't it, today?
Mm.
yes, it is. And I would disagree that the crone phase is the invisible phase. I'd say the crone phase is the return to power phase. It's like
Mm.
this last grasping of kind of, everything that you haven't done yet to make it happen. We become richer and more fine with age, not.
I meant in a good way, invisible in a good way, in that you're no longer sexualized by society and you're not seen in that way. So you can actually step into your power. What I mean is you're no longer that, how can I describe this in a nice way?
No longer on the
When you're
market.
young, you're supposed to look a certain way and you're supposed to try and make yourself attractive. And we kind of get to that age where we're like, excuse my friend. And you kind of move into your power and go, I don't need to worry about that anymore. Now I can do what I want to do. And I see the invisible thing as an empowerment and a thing of joy. Not everyone around me sees that the same, though. A lot of people struggle with it and grieve.
Yeah, it is tricky because you do get kind of overlooked, but then it's really interesting because I'm going to be 70 this year and I still haven't got that many gray hairs, which I'm, kind of ambivalent about. I would quite like gray hairs because I think I might get more respect. But being a short person, I kind of get overlooked as I always have done. So I kind of got a bit loud because of that. You know what they say about short men, well, short women too, I suppose. But I think what's interesting lately is because I've been working on my vibration, as they say, and my gratitude. Da, 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 da. You see that on my water bottle?
Mhm.
And stuff like that. People keep smiling at me in the street.
That's lovely.
It's lovely.
Oh,
It's
your aura
lovely. Just a
shining,
nice,
maybe.
friendly kind of good morning, hello, hello. And I'm thinking, ooh, and nice young students, because I get the bus up here, and there's often a lot of students because we're in the university area vicinity. And they're going, no, you go first. And I think, okay, respecting your elders. I like it. It's mostly the Koreans, I have to say.
Mm.
They are so lovely. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, embracing the benefits of maturity on International Women's Day. I like it.
Mm. So what more do we have to say about International Women's Day? Are we part of any events or any celebrations?
June is, but June is nodding her head. What are you doing, June?
It's been such a week, and I am trying to now slow down because we've only got one more event. We had seven, well, one more live event. There's two more online events from the team that work here with me. We've had five in the little meeting room across the hall, because I've just finished mine. I did a Touch for Health self-care workshop, and that went quite well. I was really pleased about that. That was teaching people, little basic self-care routines, like giving yourself some energy by pulling your ears and zipping up your central meridian, holding your forehead for stress release, all those basic stuff. But I just love, and I try and do a little bit every day
Can you
because,
do some now? Let's do some now for the audience.
oh, yeah, hot off the press. So, so yeah, well, everybody does this forehead holding thing. We just do this when we've forgotten something, or when somebody's given us a shock, or, we're really tired and we're just going, oh, what am I supposed to be doing next? That kind of thing. But holding only with as much pressure as you can bear on your eyelids. So just feel that really light. There's 2 acupuncture points just there. And if you hold that
On the
above your eyeball,
just in between your
brow bone.
eyebrows and your hairline, but the pressure is the same as on your eyeball. You don't want pressure on your eyeball. So you just want to check that out and do not press, just hold really lightly. You can hold with 2 hands, but all, 3 fingers, so that you're just
taking my
We're doing both. Are we doing forehead and eyes at once?
No, you don't. No, you don't need the eyes anymore. Once you've worked out how much,
I can't see.
forget the eyes. It's all about the forehead. Yeah, there you go. So,
and this is energizing us, is it?
What it does is it draws the blood from the back of the brain to the front, and refreshes the mind on the way through, and takes us into the thinking part of the brain, as opposed to the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Like a little brain bath. This feels like a bit of a vagus nerve, something or other, a reset.
Yeah, it's similar to that.
What else do you do, June?
Ears, something on ears.
If you're feeling your energy slumping, massaging around the ear, like that, pulling and stretching and rubbing. This one is really firm, actually. And you'll find that you feel like some bits might be a little bit tender, like the neck one, which is about there, because a lot of people have got tension in their neck or their jaw. So if you're actually working on that bit, that will really help relax here, which also helps with the neck and the vagus nerve, and helping everything flow better, because we're so much in our heads. We need to get the energy flowing down. There's 3 meridians that come down from the head to the feet. They're yang meridians. And we need to ground ourselves more and connect to Mother Earth, which are the yin meridians, which come up from the earth. There's 3 of those. And then there's 3 meridians that go out on the inside of the arm. And those are the yin ones as well, going up towards the heaven. And then 3 yang ones coming down from heaven down to the head.
Make me feel fizzy.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, nice. Liking it. Yeah.
I body brush every morning.
Mm.
And I do that, but maybe I should be doing that.
I would do up the outside and down the inside. Down as though you're brushing stuff off your hands. Like, get it away. Whoosh. Because that's the heart meridian, and you want to always go with the flow of the heart, not against it.
And what about the legs? I've been coming up the legs from the feet. Do I need to go down the legs as well?
Down the outside of the legs and up the inside of the legs.
Oof.
I was told towards the heart.
Yeah, me
That's massage. That's if you're doing massage.
With the dry brush as well, because isn't it the one of your drainage, is it your lymph drainage?
Well, you see, it depends on what you're focusing on. Yeah, there's energy in the lymph, there's energy in the blood, and the meridians are pure energy. So depends on what you're focusing on, really.
Okay.
So those meridian lines, what's that for? That's for getting rid of old energy and bringing in new. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just helping them flow better, because you can't have pain if your meridians are flowing. That's the bottom line, if we're talking about physical stuff. And if you have got physical pain, then something is blocked somewhere. So keeping the meridians flowing helps the blood flow, helps the lymph flow, helps us. So I focus on the meridians because they're working on integrating the body and the mind and the spirit too. So, they are the best, in my opinion.
What would you do around the heart and the stomach then? Because I go clockwise round the stomach.
That's good. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's going around the flow of the large intestine, and that's not really, there's no meridians that go around the circle, although there is a girdle vessel that goes around the waist. It's one of the original 8 meridians. When we're conceived, there's 8 meridians that help to form the body. So we've got the basic heavenly one, which is the governing vessel,
crown.
energy coming down from heaven, and then the energy coming up from the earth is the central meridian, and then there's the girdle vessel, and then there's 6. What is it? Did I say 8? There's 5 other ones. I can't do numbers. I'm useless.
I need a diagram.
I do. Everything needs to be a picture. So yeah, so they do the swirling around, forming our little bodies as we're growing in the womb. And then they kind of dissipate into the background, and the other 12 that are under the surface of the skin take over. But the central and the governing are still there. Now, I'm aware that I might have given people the wrong impression that the governing vessel comes down the back. It doesn't. It comes up the spine, which is a bizarre type of thing. But yeah, it comes over the crown and it connects to heaven that way.
So is that where your Kundalini snake energy comes from? Is that why they say it comes up? Because I was reading about the Kundalini snake energy and how it basically, the snake was turned into something really fearful by many modern patriarchal religions, because by working with your own individual Kundalini energy, which sits in your sacral chakra, basically your pelvic area, then that's your central seat of power, and you can really fire yourself up and connect with your And so they had to make it, like it's a snake of the serpent of wisdom, they had to make it into something to be fearful of and something dark. And in fact, the priests and priestesses of past times used that energy nefariously because it was so powerful, and they didn't want you or I, Joe Public, to know what that was all about. And that's why you have all these Kundalini yogic practices to try and awaken that serpent of kind of energy within your body so that you kind of reclaim your sovereignty, I guess. Would that sound about right, June?
Well, it does. And it's from Ayurveda, isn't it? It's from the Indian tradition, which does have a lot of similarities with Chinese, so-called Chinese medicine, Oriental type of medicine. And I think in a way, all this looking at ancient civilizations, there was clearly a connection with people that they didn't necessarily know each other or travel that much, although they possibly did.
They did.
But a lot of this is common knowledge in many cultures. So it isn't really Chinese medicine, what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
It's called that, but the Chinese were the first ones to write it down. And it has always been oral traditions, and the Tibetans were doing it. But interestingly, the chakra system, there's major acupuncture points on those chakras. And the Dantian is just below the navel, which is the front chakra for the sacral chakra at the back where the Kundalini is. And that's a power point in Chinese medicine. So they come from both sides. It's amazing, really, but you know about the snake. Now, this is another thing, because what Graham Hancock is surmising, and he's upset all the archaeologists, which I think is fine, because as minute somebody says the science is settled, I go, excuse me. Science is always evolving. We should be inquiring. we should be asking, and every bit of information leads to more questions. So he's surmising that possibly there was a comet and there was all these bits that fell off the comet and hit the Earth at the same time in different places and caused this cataclysmic event, which the people at the time characterized as a serpent in the sky. Comets could be, and so this is why they all had these carvings of serpents on all these ancient pyramids all over the world. Pyramids have been found now. It's incredible. So serpents can have that connotation because people thought they were scary things coming from the sky. And nobody likes snakes. I don't know why. Snakes are lovely, but I don't think I'd like one, but
That fear of snakes is a legacy of people being told to fear them because of the power they carry and what they represent for our individual energy fields. So this business of making them it's like black cats, making any of these things into something to be feared keeps people away from them. It's like, nothing's more dangerous than the truth because it sets you free. It's kind of, I think that's why that is the way it is. And it's interesting, as you say, Graham Hancock points out the flood happened all over the world in various places. So if there was a comet that kind of dropped, a meteor, let's say, that dropped particles all over the place and created it at once, it was always going to happen. And it probably did happen like that because that would be rather handy if it did. Then, that makes...
And that's why there's no crater. It wasn't the actual comet that hit anywhere. It was all bits that fell off.
To cause the sea to kind of...
Yeah, and melting. Well, it was after the ice age. It was the ice age, and it melted glaciers, and they caused the flood. They hit the glaciers, and that's why there's no marks on the Earth. They hit the glaciers, and then it's fascinating. It's always possible. I think it's curious. I'm curious.
Well, that's perfect kind of vibe for at the moment because this Piscean season is all about allowing an expanded consciousness. And this new moon is about that as well. It's about getting in touch with the fact that we are this kind of, other unlimited, otherworldly being in a human experience. So that now is the time to feel these things and to connect on that level. Spiritual
questions, keep asking. And this is why the dragon, you see, the dragon is a mythical creature that doesn't exist here, although they do say, there are lizards that are a bit dragony, the Komodo dragons and whatnot, but it is allegedly a messenger from heaven. So we are meant to be listening out for messages. Definitely.
There couldn't be more clearer auspices about that. And you're right, it's about asking questions. This is the time to ask those questions on Sunday, Saturday, if it's starting early for you, and give yourself the space to hear the answer. And you might find the truth is a little uncomfortable because you're not going to be able to escape it because Uranus is going to make it really clear. How are you getting in your own way?
Yeah. Ooh.
Putting things on yourself.
Goosebumps.
I like the theory that they were dragons, but we killed a lot. We kind of killed them off and made them extinct. My mother thinks that they're still around sleeping under mountains somewhere. But I'm reading a book at the moment called When Women Were Dragons. It's very weird. It's set in the 50s, and it's like there's a mass dragoning, and all these women, it's a metaphor for female rage, and all these women that were oppressed and in these horrible marriages, they all just lost their shit, turned into dragons, ate the husbands and flew away. The kids that are left behind, and it talks about propaganda and like they took everything off the news and no one's allowed to talk about it, and the kids have to keep their eyes on the ground and we don't talk about it. It's really interesting. It's weird, but it's interesting. And I would like to be a dragon.
Who is the author?
I will check it. I will leave it in the comments under the video for everyone to see.
Brilliant. That's amazing. There's so many people with these amazing imaginative stories to tell. It's just, but is it real? How do we know it maybe is some kind of memory coming through these people?
Maybe it really happened.
Or it's a metaphor for what is really happening.
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, can I be a dragon is what I want to know.
Yes, you can be whatever you want.
Yeah.
My son says, pick an animal, and he goes, not dragon, because I always choose a dragon. I like dragons. They
Huh.
fascinate me.
Interesting.
I'm not born in the year of the dragon. I did check.
You might have been born in the hour of the dragon.
Oh, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe. I do love a dragon.
I did have a book about that, but I lent it to somebody and it disappeared.
Oh, and they didn't give it back. Hate
This
that.
happens a lot.
You can Google it, but it's a very spiritual creature.
Mm.
Oh, okay. And you can burn people and eat them, which it's got to be useful, surely. There are people around me this week that I would like to set fire to, quite frankly. I'm being flippant.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
It's not a threat, right?
I-
Anybody who
threat.
knows Tamar,
No,
do not
just
get
had a hard
frightened. She's
week.
not coming to get you.
should come to burn your ass. No, not this week. But yes, and I agree. I think it's good to admit that as well, because trying to imagine that you don't have those, I think that's owning feelings, isn't it?
Mm. Yes, and there's something around. So this is part of my journey, is having big feelings. Because as a child, we weren't allowed to have feelings. I had very young parents. They were doing the best they could, but they didn't have the emotional scope. Yeah. They were very young. So you weren't allowed to have feelings. So I've always struggled with expressing it. You're not allowed to get angry. Like I wouldn't even use the word angry around my child because you just don't. But now we kind of go, I'm really cross about that because it's a softer word. But I can now say if I'm feeling cross about something. So being able to say that and say, actually, that really pissed me off, or I want to set them on fire, is quite a journey for me. And so I'm owning it.
I think that's really healthy, because I think we humans should be modeling the entire range of emotions, because we've got these emotions that we're allowed to feel. So we may as well make use of the entire piano set, as opposed to just playing with a few keys. It makes rather a dull tune. Whereas if you can get to both ends of the piano, my goodness, you can create something wonderful.
That is true. I'm going the other way. I used to be a really angry person, and I'm now like, that's so interesting.
I didn't say I was never angry. I just never knew how to express it.
Oh, I did though.
You did.
Yeah, it came out. I couldn't
Angry
stop it.
short woman.
I'm a Scorpio. What am I gonna do? I can't. I didn't know. I didn't have any control. And I've learned a little bit of control, and I think that's wise. And saying I'm pissed off and a bit cross is a big step for me. So we're kind of meeting in the middle there, Tamar, I think.
Yeah. And kind of ironically, one of my perimenopausal symptoms, the joy, was rage. Absolute rage. But it got to the point of it was rage over the tiniest inconvenience. And that's when I went to get HRT. I was like, I need to do something about this. So now the HRT helps with the rage. I still have the rage, but that's interesting. Or I can go, actually, that's really wrong. And I'm going to be really peed off about that. And I can monitor that and measure it myself. I'm not just kind of losing my shit because something fell on the floor.
Yeah, I totally concur with both of you. Anger is, an issue for me still, like you, June. Deep, heavy, intense emotions, but owning it is really important in order to acknowledge it, and then it can flow through. And I think when you haven't been allowed it, like you're saying, Tamar, it hasn't had a language in your life. It comes up like anything to begin with, quite raw. And then it gets more to a kind of more comfortable space where, you are expressing it regularly, so it never builds up to that point again, because that sounds to me like it just all built up to breaking point because it had been suppress. So it was like steam oven going off every 5 minutes. It's like, so you let the steam, and then it's kind of like, it's a lot more comfortable, but it's okay to get angry. It really is.
Which, as women, you have to be a nice, friendly, quiet little girl. You're not allowed to be angry. So there's, on International Women's Day, there's a thing about how girls have been brought up in the past. And I think that's changing with the younger generations. Young girls are a lot more feisty because they're allowed to have those feelings, which is amazing. Difficult to parent, I'm sure, but amazing.
I have an angry 13-year-old. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that age. My daughter and I were at loggerheads for a little while. It was tricky, but
it's natural because they're supposed to be separating from us at that stage.
Exactly.
And it's important that they have that separation, so we're not enmeshed and unhealthily, bonded and all that stuff. Yeah, so it's natural. It's hard, but it's natural. They need to become independent of us.
Yeah.
On that note,
I'm looking for a period of time. It'll be a bit smoother. But yes, on that note,
Mm. Thank you very much, ladies. It's been a joy. Happy International Women's Day to you both, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Claire, you need to stop the recording.
Oh yeah. What am I doing?